And welcome to the webinar. I know that we've got a few people still jumping on. You are in the match made in heaven, migration and end user adoption with Content Panda with Simeon and I, who you've heard here just a second. So yeah, we'll go into some housekeeping and start on time. So let's get going. Awesome. Thanks, Simeon. So for those of you who want to check out what Content Panda is doing, you can take a look at our website there at www.contentpanda.com. We are definitely social pandas. We do a lot of tweeting and posting to Facebook, and we have lots of great information up there. If you'd like to be alerted to our upcoming webinars and events that we're attending, or be alerted when we post a blog, we usually post about Office 365 or SharePoint or end user adoption. We're big fans of social media, so we're out on all the usual, properties and suspects. We do share a lot of what is going on in and around Microsoft, so if you're interested in that, we definitely are pushing out some great information and keeping our eye and fingers on the pulse of what's going on. Also, on Fridays, we usually post some sort of fun Panda video, so if you like that sort of a thing, check us out then as well. If you would like to send out a tweet during our talk, you can use the hashtag Content Panda webinar, and we do have an Instagram account as well. So excellent. I'm going to go to the next slide. Awesome. So this is that's me, and that's Simeon, who you're talking with today, or hearing from today, I should say. We are both co-founders of Content Panda, and we're going to tell you a little bit about ourselves, and then we'll dive into our presentation. Simeon, you want to take it from here? Sure.
Thanks, Heather. Hi, everybody. My name is Simeon Cathey. This is the slide where I get to talk a little bit about myself. I was originally at Microsoft in 1998 on the SharePoint team, back when there was about 35 of us on the team, and before it was called SharePoint. Had a really great time brainstorming, trying to figure out how to make people who work with Office documents lives better in the workplace. And that's how we came up with SharePoint Portal Server 2001, and then I was the release manager for SharePoint Portal Server 2003. After I left Microsoft, I really started working with companies in the real world and seeing what people actually do with SharePoint. Got to write a book about it called The SharePoint Bible with a couple of friends of mine, and on a personal, that's kind of me on the business level, although I guess the next image at the center one in the bottom, I do a lot of speaking. I go around to different conferences, as does Heather, and we talk about best practices and user adoption and things like that. I've got a cute daughter. I shouldn't call her little. She's 19. She's out of the house, off to school, and has a job now. Very proud dad. And I live and sail and surf in Hawaii.
Awesome. Thank you, Simeon. Here's a little bit about me. My name is Heather Newman, and I am Chief Marketing Officer or Magic Officer, depending how you spin it, for Content Panda. I moved to Seattle, back to Seattle actually, in 1998 after going to school at UW and being away for a little bit in the School of Drama. I started working in technology then, and in 2001, I was also fortunate to work on the original SharePoint team on the marketing side, which is where Simeon and I met. And the picture in the right corner is a little bit, fun, but that is a Mr. Bill Gates, and I had the opportunity to demo to him my first year when I was there, which was really cool. And that was an end user adoption program that we did inside of Microsoft, so that was very cool. And I was also happy to work with him a couple other times at the SharePoint conferences as our keynote speaker. So I've been really lucky to have been able to work with him a couple of times up close and personal. So kind of for close to a decade, any meeting, event, dinner, trade show, party that was produced by Microsoft on the Office and SharePoint side, I was either running it or had a hand in it. My company, Creative Maven, pretty much produced thousands of events and marketing campaigns for Microsoft. So that was really fun time running around the world, spending other people's money. In 2012, I became SVP of Marketing for AvePoint. And around that time, Simeon had this great idea for Content Panda, and we have been working on it, and it was time to jump into startup land, and work with him on this product. I'm also Women in Technology. I curate a site on IT Unity for Women in Technology. So for those of you ladies out there, we're looking for writers and would love people to write their stories about how they got started in IT. So if you're on here, I may ping you about that later. I see Gilda and Kimberly. Maybe I'll talk to you guys about that later. I'm also part of the CMO Club, Chief Marketing Officers Club. I do a lot with them on membership. So if you are a marketer, love to talk to you about that. I live in Sebastopol, California, which is a wine country. I'm originally from the Midwest. I have a husband, that's the one with the beard, and then I have a dog named Pierre who I love very much as well. So that's me. So let's get into our presentation. That's a little bit about us. So this slide, many people have probably seen this quote before, but if you haven't, I really love it. It's Dwight Eisenhower when contemplating his plan for Operation Overlord, which was the code name for the invasion of Normandy in Northwest Europe during World War II. He said, "Plans are nothing, planning is everything." And his view on that was really that both are absolutely necessary, but plans, sort of by their very nature, are really nothing but like a static document, while planning is that responsive and dynamic action that brings focus, to uncertainty. And when you're in the middle of a migration, there can be a lot of uncertainty. And I think people, in businesses, they talk all the time about building plans, but they forget to actually do the planning around it, because the planning around it is the work, right? It's the work of it. It's the details. It's what takes the time and the energy and the effort and collaboration, but is really, in the end, what takes you to having something be successful instead of a disaster. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Simeon for a minute, and he's going to talk about, so on a high level, some tips and tricks around things that you can do to really make your migration from one version of SharePoint to another successful. Simeon, I'll let you rock it out.
Cool. Yeah, so let's get into some of the areas you want to consider when planning for migration, and these are some of the just things that we've learned and done over the years as we've helped customers go from one version to another. And it's really through some of these activities that we came up with the idea for Content Panda. So it's centered and it's kind of born from really change management, going from one version of a product to another. And that's really critical now, especially with if you're going to the cloud, things are changing all the time in more rapid fashion. We'll cover a little bit about content and data, security, integration, customization, and then last but not least, user experience. So the first topic, content and data. So when you're looking at some of this will come across very intuitive, but as you're looking through, you're doing your planning for migration, you really want to, you may have a big, broad SharePoint environment or even just small department level use, but look at what people are really using SharePoint for. What is the business critical data and documents and content that's being actively used? And active projects are a great place to start. You'll probably, if you look around and have any analytics tools at all, it's pretty easy to start seeing patterns and see what people are actually using. But it's also really great to go talk to the business and do some surveying, find out, hey, give people the opportunity to sort of raise their hand and, answer a survey and talk about openly what they're using SharePoint for. It's always kind of surprising when you have those conversations and really listen closely to find out what people are actually using. We've done migrations in the past where somebody put a server under a desk and gave somebody access and said, hey, don't use this for anything business critical. It's just a test server. And by the time we got in there to start doing migration, there was over 4,000 sites running off of this little server underneath somebody's desk, and a bunch of very critical business information there. So also look for static content. Maybe there are some opportunities to identify content that's going to be an easy migration effort. So sort of get the ball rolling, show people how, kind of get your feet wet with some of the migration activities. And then also, as you're looking for all the real business critical stuff and all the active live content and some of the more maybe brochure type content, you're also going to notice there's probably a lot of content that is ripe for archive. So get out your clipboard, start making your lists, and look for these. Then you'll be able to start prioritizing and break this apart. Migration, sometimes people think that you need to go from A to Z. with a click of a button and do a ton of investment up front. But you can learn a lot just by grabbing some of the tidbits here and lining them up for some of the first migration activities. It creates the conversation. It gets people, it wakes people up a little bit. We've done migration projects where by the time we've come in, we've sat down with the steering committee, and somebody says, hey, we brought in this consultant, we're going to do this great migration effort, and everybody goes, yeah, last time we heard that was a year and a half ago. So just getting some momentum, getting started on some of the critical content will get visibility and get people engaged, and when people see that the train is starting to move, they'll start running for it to jump on. Security, now this is a big one. I think probably just about every SharePoint administrator has had this experience. As you're looking to migrate and looking to upgrade and modernize the experience, security best practices have been around for a while. And if you do a bit of an audit and look around, what you might find, which is fairly typical, is when people were given the keys to a SharePoint site, they weren't necessarily given the right amount of training. And there's security, all kinds of different security patterns. Some people are doing it at the item level. Some people are doing it at the list level. Some people are doing it as individual unique permissions at a site level or site collection level. And maybe there's an opportunity to kind of bunch people into groups and give them specific roles and have a better security management experience. Governance is really key to that. So if there wasn't a good governance effort in your original SharePoint deployment or the one before that, this might be an opportunity to sort of go, let's rewrite the way that we roll out SharePoint. Let's think about, how we can do this a better way. And what's interesting about kind of doing that and maybe starting from scratch, something to consider is that if you kind of take best practices, layer a security matrix over your new site structure, you will get people who go, wait a minute, I need more access. And that's great. With getting people to actually have that conversation, ask for access versus just the, hey, I'm a site collection administrator, I'm just going to start giving everybody access. It's a great opportunity to, again, re-engage, stay engaged with the business and truly understand what people are asking for. And that should kind of go in kind of a circular pattern. Those questions can go back into your ever-changing and evolving governance planning. Next, integration and customization. A lot of experiences we've had, people who do get sort of keys to the kingdom start building cool workflows, and you'll start, as you're doing your auditing exercise and going through content and data and security, you'll notice that there's some really probably great investments in workflows. But what you'll also notice is there's a lot of workflows that people started, created, but then just didn't have the time in their normal daily activities to roll it out to the rest of their team or introduce it to somebody got really interested, got excited, and got halfway through this. So there's probably a lot of little workflows that you may not need to migrate. And then there might be some more complex ones where people have cracked open SharePoint Designer, maybe even Visual Studio, and that will not migrate or won't migrate without a lot of work. So really, going through cataloging those different business processes and the automation that people have invested in, and really understanding which ones can move to a new platform. And then, and sometimes that one and the third bullet, look for third-party tools that people are expecting to just work, who they use on a daily basis. Those two may also create a conversation. If you're thinking about going to the cloud and that's your migration path, maybe keeping some things on-premise and moving into more of a hybrid setup. So another key one here is if you've made any investments in a custom look and feel. If you go all the way back to SharePoint 2013 or even 2001 and up through 2007, the way you customize the look and feel is very different than the way you would do it in SharePoint 2013. And even Office 365 starts to change that a little bit as well. And then, of course, off to 2016, we'll see what that looks like. But custom look and feel investments, you'll want to look at those carefully and figure out what can come across. Now, I've seen many different SharePoint environments, and some of them are highly customized, and where people have gone into the master pages and completely ripped things apart and changed the way things are. If you're going to Office 365 where maybe you're not able to do that, or you've decided not to make that investment, there's going to be a big change to the experience for the end users. That's our next slide. This is user experience, people, if you've kind of stayed up to date with the SharePoint platform updates, maybe it'd be a little bit less of a gap for your end users. But there are a lot of people out there still on SharePoint 2007, or if you're going from SharePoint 2007, all the way up to Office 365, that's a bigger leap than kind of going through each version. And from what we've seen in the market, in businesses, this is not uncommon at all. And who knows, as Microsoft is rolling out SharePoint 2016, that might be an even bigger leap. Office 365 migration, once you get to the cloud, the migration doesn't stop. And I guess I mean that not from a content and data perspective, but really from a user experience perspective. People are constantly, or Microsoft is constantly releasing new capabilities, new little apps and things with different user experiences ongoing, instead of a 3-year cycle where you've got to do then maybe a bunch of training in bulk. It's sort of an ongoing process as new items are rolled out. We'll show you kind of some of that in the demo.
Awesome. Thank you, Simeon. So now you all have been given a few tips and tricks on how to set yourself up for a successful migration. Things to remember. There's probably a lot in there that you're like, oh yeah, I know that, I've done that before, or maybe it brought something up for you that you didn't remember, or just sort of solidified your thinking, which is what we were hoping to do with that. So we have next a couple of proof points, factoids, facts, if you will, that we think are pretty interesting over at Content Panda that we've been collecting. And these are items that you might be able to take, say, up the ladder to your executives, or even just to your teams, because migration planning and plans are definitely about the technology, they're about the content, they're about the data, but they're really also about your end users and setting them up for success, that guided sort of user migration. So with that, this quote, which comes from an industry watch paper that was put out by AIM International, which I happen to be a board member of, so near and dear to my heart. This paper was called Connecting and Optimizing SharePoint, Important Strategy Choices. This came out in February of this past year. And in their research, really over half of all companies that are bringing SharePoint to its employees are doing it without, they don't have a net, right? So we're encouraging folks to be different. And if not, you become part of the next statistic, which is that 70%, there's a 70% I don't remember rate out there with knowledge students. So they forget 24 hours after training. And all of these wonderful factoids we got from great places out on the internet, of course. But this is not just about forgetting. For an IT admin, a trainer, or an HR person, this slide right here, this is talking about negative ROI, return on investment, right? So what happens to that trainer, that HR person, the IT admin that spends $25K, $50K, $1 million on training classes, whether you're sending, you're bringing in a trainer to train, or you're sending folks out to a trainer, which could end up in like a boondoggle, and then nobody remembers how to do anything, right? That IT person, HR person, trainer, they don't always last very long in the organization, right? So, and you don't want to be that person. So the thing is that you don't want to end up learning about the next statistic, which is that actually when you look at people and training and what they do on a daily basis, sort of looking at productivity that they spend, so for say an 8-hour day, I don't know who actually works an 8-hour day anymore, but if you actually work a 9-to-5 job, 2.5 hours are out there looking and hunting and pecking for information on how to do your job, right? So people are looking on, how to do their jobs instead of actually doing them. So now, of course, this isn't all SharePoint questions, right? But imagine, end users, what do you do first? You are in your software, you're in Office 365, your SharePoint, you have a question, you're trying to figure out how to do something, you go to the out of the box, that question mark at the top, you look, you search, you maybe find what you need, but it's not maybe specific enough or granular enough or recent or relevant enough necessarily. So what do you do then? Well, you're like, okay, I'm going to go out to Google or Bing and go type in a question and see if you can find something. But again, do you know how to search exactly for it? Do you know what the thing inside of SharePoint is called exactly that you're looking for? What is that secret sauce that's going to get you to the right piece of information? Usually it's not relevant or timely when you get out there. And then you go to YouTube because you're like, well, I'm going to try YouTube. YouTube must have a video on how to do this, right? So then once you get people to YouTube, it's all over. That 0.5 of the statistic goes to literally looking at cat videos. I'm not kidding. So actually, I'm kind of kidding. But anyway, the truth is that people are spending and wasting a lot of time looking for information. And when you, at the end of the day, when you can't find what you need, you end up feeling like the next slide, which is the number of people who actually like asking for help. People feel terrible. I know I do when I can't find something or figure out how to do something. The truth of the matter is that no one really likes asking for help. No one really likes sending that email to their IT admin again, saying, hey, sorry to interrupt, but I'm trying to, share this list, or I'm trying to create XYZ on SharePoint, and I just can't remember how to do it. I don't do it every day. And they come up with the question, dun, 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 how do I ... right? At Content Panda, we call that the mystery question. Fortunately, we know how to solve it. And this is what we like to say is the missing piece of your migration building your migration end user adopting planning. So definitely looking at Content Panda is that we help with making things wildly successful and wildly successful long term, right? Giving your end users kind of what they need at their fingertips. When you have millions of people being migrated every day, you want relevant, accurate, up-to-date help content that is both on demand and in context. And that's the thing about Content Panda that's a little bit different, is that we bring it's on demand and in context, meaning that it's inside the UI or user interface, right? So it's inside the software that people are using or forced to use, as some people like to say, every day. So Simeon's going to share with you a demo, show you how Content Panda will not only make your migration and user adoption planning wildly successful, like I said before, but it's also showing you that, it will be there to support you 3 months, 6 months, a year out. This isn't just a flash in the pan. This isn't just a day of training and we're gone. Panda is always there for you, behind you, supporting you in what you're doing. So Simeon, I'll turn it back over to you, and you can show everybody some use cases about migration and end user adoption. Thanks.
All right, cool. Enough slides for everyone. Hopefully everybody, if anybody wants more slides, we'll make more later for you. I'm going to go ahead and switch over here to my browser and kind of show off the content, the fun that is Content Panda and some of the power. We'll go through some real typical business use cases that really align with a migration effort. In this case, we've gone from, let's say, SharePoint 2010 to Office 365. There's a lot of differences in the user interface. The whole user experience can be different, and hopefully we've done some planning around our taxonomy. We've done our content and our data, our site structure, our security, things like that. But just because we've done the planning and we've done the work, we've invested in maybe writing about some best practices and putting together some articles, we want to really get that in the hands of the end users. Because in our experience, and probably in yours, the last thing an end user wants to do is to pick up a 60-page governance document when they're in the middle of trying to do something and go figure out what's relevant to them from maybe a policy or a training perspective. So the first thing I want to do is we want to show people how easy it is to self-migrate. So when you're rolling out a migration plan, consider giving your end users an option. Say, hey, we're going to sunset this old environment. We're not going to do an in-place upgrade, for example, but we're going to move over here to Office 365 or this new SharePoint environment. We want it to be clean and pristine, so we'll go create some of these sites for you, and then you can migrate some of your own documents. So let's take this. Let's say that we've taken an active project site and we said, we're going to migrate it over. We're going to bring some of the content that looks active, but not all of the content. So end users, we want you to come in here and be able to just drag and drop some of your own content. Well, a lot of folks don't realize you can just drag and drop documents right into Office 365 or SharePoint 2013 and do your own, you just bulk upload. So we're going to go create some Content Panda content. Now, over here on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see that there's a panda on every screen I land on. The number underneath the panda face tells me how many help topics or governance topics or policies are available on each page. On this page, it's 15. If I click on that 15, Content Panda lights up all of those items, and a panda peeks from behind each one of these items and says, hey, I've got some content here for you. You'll see here there's one for the document library. I've already tagged this with Content Panda, and we'll show you how that works here in a bit. And it's got some great training content here for me. Lists and advanced library features, connect and export, et cetera, et cetera. End user from this little Panda panel can click and go directly to any one of these topics. Let's go take a look at what one of these are. So let's go to advanced library features. If I click on this, we drop them right into our training Support Plus training platform. This shows people, gets them right to the topic that they care about that's inside of thousands of topics and videos. I'm going to go to document IDs here, talks about exactly what all of these things are. Now we open this in a new tab so that when the user's done sort of doing their self-service learning, when they close the tab, they're right back where they were, and they can continue using SharePoint and even dig deeper into any of these others. Well, what we want to do with this one is we want to add our own little bit of guidance here. We just want to show everyone that they can do drag and drop. So I'm going to go put Content Panda into editor mode just by putting the parameter panda editor equals true. And when the page loads, the panda says, oh, I need to be in edit mode, and it lights up all of the items on the screen with colored pandas to show me what content has been tagged on the site and on this state page specifically. So I'll open up the one for the document library, and we're going to add a link, and this link is going to be about actually, let's go ahead and just remove some of these links, and we'll add our own. I'm going to open this in a new tab here because there's some content that I created on our governance site. You notice that I've left Content Panda on, so every page I go to, it shows me all the help content. I'm going to go to our governance site where I've created a drag and drop article that talks about how you can drag and drop files into SharePoint 2013 document libraries. I'll copy the URL here and say, let's say bulk upload, drag and drop, and I'll put that URL right here and save this Content Panda target. And let's see here, what else do we want to do here? We want to also show people that they can synchronize their library locally. So I'm going to open up the sync dialog and add a link to this one. I think I've got another article I put together. Yeah, syncing files. So I'll copy this URL. Sync files locally. This is really great for doing work offline, so really great information for users who've migrated from a previous version that doesn't allow this to the new version. Some good capabilities to kind of expose. And so as an end user, so this is me in edit mode. I'm a Content Panda editor. I've got some elevated rights here. I can manage the training content, and that's just part of my job. As an end user who then goes to a project site, so now I'm an end user, I'm going in to work on my project. My IT administrator has told me, hey, you can move some of your own content. If you have any questions or need any help, just go ahead and click on the panda. And so now we look at this, this new help dialog, and we've got an article here called bulk upload. If I click on sync, I've got sync files locally. Again, now these links that I just put in here, and I can totally modify this. I could remove this link. I could remove the Bing search results, but if the user clicks on it, they go right to my governance article. So this is a way to manage your content in SharePoint from a governance perspective. So I've got a wiki wiki pages here that are really my governance document. And as I keep these up to date or make changes to this content, the next time somebody clicks on a link, they're always getting fresh content. It's under my control and on my SharePoint site. But it really bridges the gap between a user who's maybe looking for help or needs a little bit of guidance without having to send that email, go search on Google or Bing, or try to do their own investigation. They can get immediately to the information. So another use case that we see people at, and this goes back to sort of the migration, security migration, and starting to really follow best practices, is people might find themselves at their new, maybe you hand them their new SharePoint site and you've said, hey, we didn't migrate all your security over, but we want you, so when you get there, you're going to have to invite your team, but we want you to follow some best practices. So again, on our governance site, we've created some best practices for managing users and security. So I'm going to go back to our governance site. Again, this is great to have IT governance site, front and center. But again, as users go into SharePoint to whatever level they're working on, it's not super intuitive for them to necessarily be able to go find this content. And even if they did come to the governance site and know where that's at, it still might be a challenge to get them to exactly the article that you want. So I'm going to go to editing permission levels, an article that I've put together. And I want to go into site settings. And let me refresh the page here. Oh, I need to go into edit mode, so we'll go Panda, editor equals true. And we'll go to people, let's go to site permissions. So I'm going to open this up. Notice that this is a blue panda. That means that all the blue pandas on this page are out-of-the-box content that comes with Content Panda. So on this page alone, there are 42 items on the site settings page that the Content Panda immediately starts delivering training value. Now I'm going to override this out-of-the-box content just by clicking override, and we're going to go add a link to our governance best practice. So let's do permissions. So that user who finds themselves here having to become a SharePoint site administrator, who may have already been one on a previous version of SharePoint, not only do we get them our best practices around how to really more effectively manage permissions, but also even some of the new user interface, we can provide training for that as well. So now I've created this, this new link that goes out to our governance article about this particular topic. Alrighty, so let's see. I think I'm going to show a couple more real quick. I want to go to our intranet home. We saw a really interesting migration use case. Well, this was a couple years ago, but the legal team and the legal portal that got migrated from one version to another. The paralegals were asked to go through and audit all of the Word documents and choose the ones that were really important for the legal, the corporate legal document, convert them to PDF, and put them up into their proper folders. Now, we said, we don't think you necessarily, from a best practices perspective, should use folders, but because you could use metadata. And the lawyer said, no. This is how we work. We're not going to change the way we work, but we are going to change the way that people store these documents. We want them to use specific file names. We want them to convert to PDF. So I've made a little link. Okay, I'm going to open up the Panda editor again. Now I'm going to show you, I just showed you how to modify content that's already on the site. And it looks like I'm having some network issues here today. I'm not sure what's going on. Let me refresh the page here. Okay, here we go. So I showed you how to click on any one of these pandas and modify content or override content. What I want to do now is add some governance content, some guidance on this particular library. So you notice as I'm moving around the screen, the Panda is inspecting the page and looking for elements that we can tag. Now, you can see here I'm hovering over board resolutions. Content Panda is saying, this element, we can tag this element and put a panda there and add content. But if we do, these other light orange items are also going to have the same pandas with the same content. So I'm going to move my mouse around a little bit more until I find a block that encompasses this entire library. Now all I do is right click. I'm going to select publish. We'll call this corp document library. Path limiter, I'm going to make sure this only works on the legal site, so I can look at the URL path and say, you know what, only show this content for anything within this particular site. And please follow policies here, exclamation. All right, so we're going to save that. And now that we've saved that, we get all these new capabilities for this particular Panda target. I'm going to add a link, so let's go to our governance site. Again, I've got some file naming recommendations, so I'll grab that article. This could be a link to any content. Excuse me, it could be a link to a document, it could be a link, you could go to a video or any article or another system that you might have where you're managing training content. But in this case, it's just a SharePoint wiki article. So we'll go file naming policy. Put that URL in here, save. Now let's add a video. And we know that the paralegals are great at document management. We're not sure they know how to convert Office files, Microsoft Office files to PDF. So I'm gonna pop right out to YouTube here and do a quick search for convert to PDF. You might spend a little bit of time looking through these. Let's say we really like this one here. And any video web service, any modern video web service, whether it's Office 365 video, Vimeo, or maybe you have your own video service for your organization, support embedding that video in a web page and playing it, streaming it. So this is how you do it for YouTube. I'm going to go to embed here. Since the Content Panda dialog is somewhat smaller, I'm going to change the size ratio here to 320 by 180. Now I'm just going to copy this markup. We're going to close this and select Video tab, add a video, call it Convert to PDF or ODF. PDF, drop the markup into here and hit Save. Okay, so now the next time an end user, so these paralegals going to the legal portal, the next time they turn on Content Panda, there's a new item here that's tagged, and when they click on that, they can go directly to the file naming policy. Again, that opens up in a new tab. They can learn about that, and they can watch the video right here without advertisements, right in line. Of course, they can go full screen, or if they go back out to YouTube, there's lots of other related videos there based on this video's content. So a quick way to get, and what we found is through our analytics is it's really popular. You know how they say, picture's worth 1,000 words. Well, I think a video is worth 1,000,000. You get really short chunks, really great information in front of users very quickly. Now the users can also rate the content, tell us how useful it is, and we can let you know, here's your popular content, here's content people really don't like, and have some insight into how the content's being used. All right. So I think the last one that I want to show you is a really typical business use case for all those people out there, for all of you who have been managing SharePoint. One of the big asks that we've seen is, hey, we really love the shared calendar features in SharePoint. So the vacation request calendar is a huge hit in businesses on SharePoint. So I want to show you how in a typical business scenario like your vacation policy or requesting time off policies or process, how we can make that even that a great experience. So I'm going to go to our HR site, click on request personal time off. Now, as an end user, I find myself here and I can see, this is pretty straightforward, intuitive form to fill out. So I got a title, location, start time, end time. I got a little note here that says, please follow corporate vacation policy. Click the Panda. Now imagine if this form was just, if we didn't have Content Panda here, people might they might get to this form and not really truly know without getting some assistance how many vacation days they have available. Description, again, this is pretty self-explanatory. Category, boy, what do these acronyms mean? So I'm going to take even this SharePoint form, and I'm going to go into Panda editor mode. And again, the Panda here turns orange, and it shows me items on the page that I can tag. So as I move my mouse around, we're going to go tag this one here because we're telling end users that we want them to click on the Panda. So the red icon, that means it's not published. That means there's a placeholder for that content, but it's not available to end users. So if an end user were to go to this screen, they wouldn't see that particular Panda. We're going to say, let's go ahead and publish this end time. And I'm going to go, I've prepared a, actually I think I have a link to it. I have a link to my vacation policy. So let's copy that URL. Let's go add a link to vacation policy and hit save. Now, did I publish that? I did publish that. So now that's going to be available to the end user. Let me refresh this really quick. Notice there's a bunch of red icons. I thought I just published this one. All right, I'm going to embarrass myself here. Publish, save. I forgot to click save, folks. Okay, so that icon should change to an orange Panda because I've got some custom content here now. All right, so let's take a look at the end user's experience. Go to Human Resources. I want to request some time off. Again, the form is fairly intuitive to fill out. This says, hey, click the Panda, get some more information. And so I click on the Panda. The Panda shows up for those two elements on this particular form. You can see that, here's the link to the vacation policy, and here's some helpful content that I can choose to look side by side at the definitions for what these acronyms are. So you can see that as you're bringing people from an existing experience to the new experience and ongoing, there's really an opportunity to get the content that you know they'll need or that you can assume they'll need right in front of them, right where they need it. Give them the opportunity to also rate the content and also, give you feedback. Maybe put a link in these dialogues to a feedback form so that they can give you help kind of partner with you and give you feedback about the content or where they might use other content. Okay, so I'm going back here. Now, Content Panda out of the box. So far I showed you how to go in and override content, add your own content, bring your content right into the pages inside Content Panda and in context. But without doing anything, deploying Content Panda comes with a whole bunch of content. So let's just take a quick tour of what that looks like. Now this is our demo environment, so I've adjusted a lot of content and played with it, really made it my own, made it, instead of it just being content for training content for SharePoint, this is really our content now. We've really taken ownership and curated new content. But out of the box, let's just turn Content Panda on and do a quick tour. So just out of the box, SharePoint, Office 365. There's a bunch of new, I'll share a really great example with you guys. When we built Content Panda for Office 365 and SharePoint, we started lighting up all of these great features that people use on a daily basis. Search. So if you're going from SharePoint 2007 or 2010 to Office 365, search has some amazing new features that every end user should know about, like how to use refiners, how to, searching for people, and how to use advanced search properly. So getting this content in front of your users will save them time, will save you headaches as well. Let's look at Microsoft rolled out, oh gosh, it must have been 7 or 8 months ago, without really telling anybody, they added this new toolbar above a document library. They called it the simple toolbar. And yeah, it may appear simple, but there's some really powerful features here for example, sync. But even a new user to SharePoint, or maybe a user who's just sort of been a consumer of content for SharePoint, when they transition to a more power user status where they're uploading content, there's a ton of really great content here to help them. So how to create new files, folders, delete files, all may feel like really basic content, but the only option for people learning how to do this stuff would be to go search on their own or know where to go find information. In this case, we're just bringing it right to them. So okay, creating a new file, very basic, basic task. So we've got some really basic step-by-step information. There's more details that tells people, well, this is how you use the ribbon, how you can make, use local copy, goes into more depth. Maybe just the step-by-step is enough, but details, some people like to learn a little bit more, get more explanation for how things work. And even more popular is videos. And again, we have thousands of videos that people can look at, which are step-by-step. All right, so this one here is 2.5-minute video. Great, in 2.5 minutes, I know the finer points of how to add files to a document library, including upload, drag and drop, things like that. Additionally, we've got computer-based training. What this is a set of modules which guide a user through more advanced learning. I'm going to mute this. Now these modules, they take people through it step by step in a very intuitive way in video format, and then also to really lock that information into their cognitive, their brain. There are learning checks, and we track where the user is, so when they come back, they can start where they left off if they ran out of time or they have some free time on their hands. So you can go through creating a new file, uploading a file. People can really do self-service learning here, and then go to either learning check and have an interactive sort of quiz experience as they're learning. All right, so again, when they're done learning exactly how to upload a file in this case, or creating a new file, they just close the tab and they're right back at SharePoint. They can turn Content Panda off and move along. So some really great, powerful content without you having to do anything. As your users are being communicated to, saying, hey, we're going to migrate, here's our timeline, one bullet point in that list should be, and here's how you get help. Whether that's Content Panda, whether that's an online ticketing system where people can make requests, or even a community where people are sharing best practices. Again, all of those things should be considered. If you do have if you can create a culture of community where people are sharing best practices, those best practices, those conversations, those articles, those are also great candidates to bring into Content Panda and put them inside SharePoint where people are working. All righty, so that's Content Panda in a nutshell. And this is how people, we've been getting some great feedback from people that we've rolled Content Panda out to. Customers are really loving the experience. We've even got email from users. One in particular said, I used Content Panda for a little bit the first couple weeks. I don't use it a lot anymore, but when I need it, I know that it's there. So as I navigate around SharePoint, as I'm becoming a power user and my managers are asking me to do more, I'm not afraid because I know wherever I'm at, I can click the Panda and get help.
Definitely. Thank you for the demo, Simeon. That was awesome. So I think one of the things here that we want to impress upon you is this is how people feel, and we've really gotten that feedback from our customers, and regarding migration, this is definitely during a migration time is a time when people will be using Content Panda a lot, where they'll be clicking around trying to figure out what they need to do, finding those, repetitive tasks or the tasks that they don't do very often, right? So answering those questions for them, how do I do this, right? And they know that they can really simply click the Panda. So the best factoid of all that we like is that 0 is the number of people who have ever complained about having the info they want when they need it, right? So when people can self-service and when they find what they need, their productivity jumps up, and I'm not sure who wouldn't want that. So with that, we would love to have you, if you would like to let us know that you want a deeper dive into Content Panda. We love giving demos. We love talking to people about their businesses and what they're doing, where they're at, which SharePoint version they're on, if they're moving, if they're in the cloud, if they're hybrid, all of that stuff. So you can easily book a more in-depth demo or conversation, or just get a quote if you like what you see at sales@contentpanda.com. And one other thing that we have, well, we have Q&A. So yeah, we actually have one question in Q&A right now. Yeah, that's fine, Simeon, let's do that. So will the slides be available online? Yes, they will. We will have them on our site and also on SlideShare. So if you're looking for that. Does anyone else have any questions? We can open it up right now as we're getting to the top of the hour. Anyone? Any questions? Well, while the questions are maybe getting into the queue there, I'll point out that Simeon and I wrote a chapter, I believe it's 5 or 6, chapter 5, I think, in ImprovelT, which is a book. It's a collection of essays on analytics and end user adoption and tips and tricks on how to accomplish more with SharePoint. There's paperback and Kindle editions. If you're Kindle Unlimited, it's free. And then there's a link also to download the free ebook as well. I think one of the authors, Jeff Shuey, is on the call as well. Hi, Jeff. So it was really fun to do this, and it's been fun promoting it. That was a picture from all of us, those of us at the event, the book launch at Ignite back in May. So I think so. Here's a question. Does Content Panda work in a hybrid environment? Simeon, you want to take that?
Absolutely, yes. We're a cloud service, and we're a very simple install. We have multiple, depending on your favorite way to install apps, we have a WSP that you can deploy as a solution on your Office 365 or on-premise SharePoint environment. We have an app, a .app file that you can put in your app gallery. You can turn it on at site-by-site level if you like, or push it through the entire site collection. What's kind of cool is if you, let's say you've got an on-premise environment that's SharePoint 2013, and you've got Office 365 where people are pushing your all new sites, or maybe all project sites are being created out on Office 365. If you tag something that has the same element in the HTML on your on-premise environment, you can have a shared database up in the cloud. So if you tag it on-prem, it can tag it out there in the cloud as well. So we do support those configurations. If you also if you like, you can have completely different content for all of your, out of the firewall stuff, and different content on your inside the firewall stuff.
Awesome. Let's see. Here's another question. You guys call this the awesome version, correct? Ha ha ha. Yes, we do. We do. This is the awesome version. If you're on our website and looking around, it is. We like to have a little fun. So yeah, this is if you're looking for talking to sales, it is what you saw today is all in the awesome version of Content Panda for Office 365 and SharePoint. And then there's one final question, I think, unless anybody has anything else. Anything to share on roadmap for in the future for Content Panda?
Well, we might have to stop the recording for that. Okay. Yeah, so let me talk about that. That's a great question. We have oh my gosh, you probably are sitting there thinking of all the other cool things we could do with Content Panda. We have a very long list. Right now, we are launching V2, which has some really nice administrative improvements on how you manage content, how you might style Content Panda to change the pandas to other icons that maybe match your own branding or your own needs. The ability to manage users, add somebody as an editor so that they can manage content for you, sort of delegate that task out, and a few other kind of cool features. That version, also the editor experience that you saw today that I demoed, that becomes a much nicer experience. We've got some great feedback from our customers and partners about how to make that better. And we, Content Panda is also, it's while we're designed and we have content for SharePoint, we'll be able to start plugging it into other web-based platforms. So if you're a developer or you have a development team that's building custom solutions, we'll be able to plug it in there as well, as long as it's a web-based application. Our target date for releasing that version is sometime later this year, and then around the holidays we're going to be doing our planning for our 2016 roadmap, and there's some really exciting things coming out next year that we, maybe I'll just hint at one. We're looking at analytics as kind of an obvious choice to add to the suite, because as we're in the page and people are navigating and using content, we're also able to track how people are using SharePoint. So that's another area that we're going to look at investing in. But if you'd like to reach out to us individually, and if you're interested in being on working with us through our beta releases or giving feedback along the way and helping us prioritize, we always love to hear from you. So reach out to our sales team, and we'll love to bring you into the Panda fold.
Awesome. Absolutely. I think that is it. I don't see any other questions, and we're just about out of time. So wanted to say thank you for joining us today and listening in and hanging out, and appreciate the questions. And hopefully we've given you some good tips and tricks around, SharePoint migration itself, as well as really planning that end user adoption planning, experience for migration, so that you're giving your end users everything that they could ever want when they get into migrating. So thanks so much, and we'll be posting this on demand so folks can see it probably on SlideShare and definitely on our website. And we will be announcing another webinar very soon. We're continuing on the series. We're talking, migration and end user adoption, change management, places where Content Panda is really going to make a difference in folks' lives every day when they're inside of SharePoint. So looking forward to seeing you on a webinar again sometime soon. Thank you so much, and thanks, Simeon, for the great demo.